السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا. Marhaban. Welcome guys to this live stream. My name is Liaquat Zaman. Hope you guys are having a wonderful time. As you can tell, today is a very hot day today. Alhamdulillah. Heat. MashaAllah, hitting 30 degrees today. So UK is really enjoying the weather. And it's only a matter of time before we start complaining about the heat. So anyway, this is the nice weather that we have, and hope you guys are enjoying the weather where you guys are. So yesterday I had to miss the live stream yesterday, Friday live stream, and also had to miss podcast because yesterday was the last day of the academic year where I work, and so basically I was very busy. Yeah, in simple terms. Okay, let's just pour some tea here. Right, wa alaikum assalam, Amina, ahlan wa sahlan, welcome, mashallah. You're the first, mashallah, yes, you are the first, you win. Hasib, wa alaikum assalam, ahlan wa sahlan, Hasib. Boxing, MMA, wa alaikum assalam. Ahlan wa sahlan. J3 shoes, the end of the world is near, make dua, and the world is always near, my brother, it's always near. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Zed Melor. So that's basically the situation over here. Nice hot weather. It's quite hot. Alhamdulillah. I mean, my house is quite cool. It doesn't get that hot. But you can imagine some houses get extremely hot. Yeah, very difficult to be able to bear. Ayub Ali, alaikum assalam. I have only just started watching your channel and it's extremely beneficial. Inshallah, one day will give us the opportunity to actually sit in a classroom and learn from you. Inshallah. Ayub Ali, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. Hasir, your exam was mad hard. Well, I did tell you. I said if you don't do the homeworks, you're going to struggle. That was a promise. And that's every year I've seen that. Problem with students is a lot of students have this assumption that they can sit in the class and just understand everything and they retain it. So understanding is different from retaining. So it's not like mathematics where you understand something and then the concept is there. It's more about retaining it, and the retaining requires doing the vocab, doing the homeworks. That's where a lot of students struggle. So I know from before, I've been doing this for like years. Students who don't do their Quranic Arabic homeworks will not be able to pass the exams. Very, very unlikely, unless they've studied Arabic somewhere else before. It's nearer now. Yeah, definitely. And it will be nearer tomorrow, and it will be much more near in a year's time, and it will be much more near in 10 years' time. Wa alaikum assalam, Makki study. Do you do Islamic further studies? Yes, I do Islamic studies. So my channel is Islamic studies, basically. Anyone a fan of Anki? Yeah, so I used to tell all my students about Anki in the past. But if you don't keep checking it, I think they delete the WhatsApp. Wa alaikum assalam, Kamran. Ahlan wa sahlan, mashallah, welcome. Where do I find 17 lessons? So 17 lessons basically is on my uruk.com website. Yeah, so it's there. It's £50. The course is £50. And you'll find the course there, inshallah. Yeah, so uruk.com, or if you email learningdeen@gmail, well, instead of E3. Alhamdulillah, 100% alhamdulillah, I understand everything when you're teaching, but I forget after 1 hour. Yeah, definitely, that's what happens. That's definitely, and it's a kind of it's a misconception that a lot of people have where they can understand something and automatically retain it. Yeah, so you have to go over it again and again and again. In fact, Sahaba used to go over like Abu Hurairah says that he used to go over the verses that were revealed in the day. He used to go over them multiple times at night. Right. Idris, ahla wa sahlan wa alaikum assalam. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, ahla wa sahlan. Ahla wa sahlan. Welcome. Alhamdulillah, very good, very good. How are you, Idris? Manfado, alaikum assalam. Today's tea is this Turkish nice herbal tea. It's got all these leaves in there and different like, dry berries and things. Yes, very tasty. Ah, nice. It's got this kind of a ginger kick in there. It's got a bit of ginger in there. It's got like a bit of fruity taste in there. Or it's Osman Irfan wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Good Jummah talk on Friday. MashaAllah, Osman. Ahla wa sahlan. Welcome. Welcome, Osman. Alhamdulillah. Oh, okay, you were the inside as well. Ahla wa sahlan. Ahla wa sahlan, Osman. MashaAllah. Sometimes a lot of you guys, I know you by name. I don't know you by face. So I've had in the past people come up to me and meet me, and they think I recognize them online because of their name. But because I haven't seen their picture, they haven't put their picture up or something, I can't really tell who they are. So I do apologize. If I meet you in real life and I haven't seen you before and I don't recognize you, then I do apologize. But it's happened to me a few times. Like some guys will like come up to me, meet me, and then like I won't like kind of acknowledge them, or maybe I'll just give them salam or something. And then they'll say, "Oh, it's me online." And then I say, "Oh, you, okay. You don't show your face, bro. I can't recognize your face through your writing." Okay. Right, so let's start off with the questions then. Right, so Kamran came across a hadith about deeds which are recorded by the pen when it is mentioned about an insane person till he becomes sane. Yeah, so this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that the pen, meaning the pen of accountability, is uplifted from three individuals: a minor until he reaches adulthood, and a sleeping person until they wake up, and an insane person until they gain sanity. So basically what the hadith actually is that Allah does not burden a soul more than they can bear. So in other words, Allah does not legally impose something upon someone when they're not in the right state to be able to take it. So this is why these three individuals are considered to be outside of that. That's what it basically means. So once they become better, then accountability starts with them. Now, are there any other mental illnesses that fall under this? Possibly. Like this kind of hadith is a very general hadith, but it can be further investigated, yeah, definitely. And because in the past, when people used to say things like insane, the Prophet ﷺ didn't clarify what insane actually refers to, what level of in today's mental illness does it refer to. So this is something that can actually be, and is in today's times, is being looked at, where generally they say a person can't tell the difference between what's right and wrong. Yeah, so a person can't tell the difference between right and wrong. This kind of person falls under that category. But if someone has like some sort of mental illness, like for example dyslexia or something else, then that doesn't fall under it. What does liaqat mean in Arabic? It means stamina. Is the word Allah a name or a title? So there's an ikhtilaf in that. It's a long ikhtilaf. Is this a word that comes from the Hebrew origins, Semitic origins, or is this a word that comes from aliha ya'lahu? There's about 6 or 7 different opinions regarding this. Yeah. So at the moment, I mean, we don't really have time to go into them, but generally, yeah. So some say it's an ism jamid, and it's just from the Semitic texts, and it's been passed down. This is Allah's original name, and some say no, it's actually derived from either aliha ya'lahu or aliha ya'lihu, alaha ya'lihu, or ilahun, ma'budun. Question, Ustad, why in Jamaat for Dhuhr and Asr it's done quiet, and Maghrib and Fajr? It's because the Prophet ﷺ said so. Yeah, so he basically, because he was always doing it, it's become fixed now. So throughout his life, he always prayed the night prayers, the dark prayers, Maghrib, Isha and Fajr aloud, and the other two quietly. And because he's been doing it all his life, and he never did the contrary, Sahaba did it as well, so it's become an ijma'i issue, unanimous issue. Can you name a child Rahim? Yeah, you can name a child Rahim. Yeah, Rahim, because the Prophet ﷺ was actually called Rahim. Ra'ufun Rahimun. Yeah, you can. So it's one of those Allah's names where it's not something which you need to put an abd before it. مطيع الرحمن وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا مطيع الرحمن. كيف أستطيع أن أنضم البودكاست في يوم الجمعة؟ أرسل إيميل إلى هذا إن شاء الله إلى هنا. أرسل إيميل وإن شاء الله أنا سوف أعطيك المفتاح الرابط للدخول. لكن ممكن هذا الجمعة لا يكون بودكاست بسبب عيد، فيمكن يكون بعد الأسبوع الآتي إن شاء الله بعده بتوقيت بريطانيا، حسب توقيت بريطانيا. أوكي. शहादत على शहादत में असल शाहिद फ़र्क को बिनाकर फ़र्क को असल समझकर फिर फ़र्क बनाना क्या बराए मेहरबानी बताइए। शहादत على शहादत में असल शाहिद फ़र्क को बनाकर फ़र्क को असल समझकर फिर फ़र्क बना। नहीं, हनफी हज़रात के नज़दीक ये जायज़ नहीं है। हाँ, ये नहीं हो सकते। तो इसमें जो है ना फ़रा मतलब ये है कि अगर एक आदमी है वो शाहिद है, वो एक वाक़या में वो गवाह था, और मतलब ये है कि वो जो है ना एक दिन बीमार हो गया, वो खुद वो जो है ना महकमा में हाज़िरी नहीं कर सकता, तो वो जो है ना उन्होंने किसी और को शाहिद बनाया, तो उसके लिए दो शाहिद चाहिए फ़रा। वो दो शाहिद जो है ना फ़रा शाहिद, वो किसी और को फ़रा शाहिद नहीं बना सकते हनाफ के नज़दीक। If we are injured and need to move many times in salat due to pain, is that permissible? Yes. Yeah, that would be permissible. That's considered to be something which is an other, an excuse. إدريس وعليكم السلام. عداوة العدو لا يزول إلا بالترحم. Is this sentence grammatically correct, or do we have to use feminine sigha of the verbs? عداوة العدو لا يزول إلا بالترحم. Yeah, you can do that. You can say that. You can say, because عداوة is considered to be غير مؤنث غير حقيقي. So it's possible to say لا يزول إلا بالترحم. But however, لا تزول إلا بالترحم would be more better to use. Assalamu alaikum. Why has slavery been abolished in Islamic countries when it was permitted in the... So this is a good question. So basically, so slavery started to become like, the Quran mentions, for example, like rulings, permissibility for things. So for example, like the Quran mentions about eating is permissible. The Quran mentions about slavery being something permissible, or even having 4 wives permissible, or even like things like having children as being permissible. So these are things known as the mubahat, things which are considered to be permissible in Islam. If the scholars see that people are abusing these things, they can put restrictions on people. Yeah, so restrictions can be put on people when they see things are being abused. So for example, like in the early years, women used to go to the masjid, but then later on, many of the scholars saw that people were abusing this right. And many women were being like sexually assaulted, abused, and molested. Other things were happening. So the scholars put restrictions on this. And as time went by, there were other things as well, which scholars, known as the Sadd al-Dhara'i or anything of that sort, which the government can actually implement. And even in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, he put some things in place as well. Like for example, Taraweeh, he collected everyone for Taraweeh. So this falls under what is known as maslaha. So like for example, even in the time of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Abu Hanifa, he actually, when it came for qurbani, slaughtering animals, people used to take a blade in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and make a little cut in the animal's hump, and let a little bit of blood out, and then wipe it over the camel's hump. So what happened was, as time went by, people used to cut too much into the camel and used to hurt the camel. And Imam Abu Hanifa put a restriction on this and said, no, you can't do it anymore now. This is considered to be wrong, because the way that you're doing it is not the way the Prophet ﷺ did it. So as time goes by, sometimes certain rulings like that can be problematic. So therefore the government can step in. So this is what happened the Ottoman government stepped in the 1800s and started to outlaw keeping slaves because they saw that people were abusing them rather than taking care of them. Yeah, so that can happen. Assalamu alaikum Rapids, wa alaikum assalam. I have a friend who is very confused. He has asked that Deobandi believe in things that then believe to believe in things which, as when non-Muslims join Islam, he doesn't. I don't know what you're saying, bro. Yeah. So are you saying? So can you repeat your question? So your friend is confused. He asked that Deobandi believe in things, and then Brevi believe in things, which is right. So exactly what things like? Yeah. What I would say, look, a lot of people hear rumors about people, Deobandi, Brelvi, all these kind of like a lot of this stuff are rumors basically. As long as a person believes what the Sahaba believed, that is enough for our belief. That's all we have to believe. That's the main thing. Anyone who accepts Islam, as long as they believe in what the Sahaba believed, that is the main thing. Why were the Mu'tazila wrong and were many of them Hanafi? So the Mu'tazila we believe were wrong because basically when it comes to Mu'tazila used the basis, the foundation to be able to analyze the Sharia as their intellect, as their like aql. And this brought a lot of problems. So they came across situations where they said, okay, if a person was to live 60 years of their life and do all good and never committed one sin, logically God has to put them in Jannah. He's not allowed to put them in Jahannam. So they began to impose on God certain binding rules. And this, the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah said, you can't do this. Okay, logically it makes sense. But by doing this, you're simply restricting Allah's power. Yeah, so stuff like this. So they began to say this. They began to say things like, if a person commits a major sin, they're not Muslim and they're not kafir. Yeah, they're in a different realm. So they have their own sort of like problematic. So the Mu'tazila were not considered out of the fold of Islam. It was just that the certain approach they took in theology was considered quite problematic. Does wudu count if you use a water permeable nail polish? I've checked the water permeable nail polishes and they're not permeable to water. If you show me one that is permeable to water, and the test to do is get the so-called permeable nail varnish. You get a piece of paper, yeah, like this, and you put it on, yeah, let it dry, and then get some water in like a teat or something and drip it on, and see if it goes through. If it goes through, then it's permeable. If it doesn't go through, it's not permeable. Wa alaikum assalam, Abdul Rahman, ahlan wa sahlan. Zed, if in my heart I say, if I become wealthy, I will do such and such good things, is that considered as an intention and we reward for it? Of course, yes, definitely. Yasin, mashallah, ahla wa sahlan, wa alaikum assalam. What is the meaning of ad-dahr in Surah? Yeah, dahr, basically in Arabic, dahr means like time or life or long period of time. Yeah, so this is what dahr is usually used for. And an epoch or a millennia or a long period of time it could refer to, or it could even refer to life as well. Arabs call it dahr, life. Assalamu alaikum, ahlan wa sahlan Arnaut. Ayub Ali, ahlan wa sahlan. My question is regarding the letter the Prophet ﷺ sent to Hercules or Hercules. In the letter it says, submit and you shall be saved, but the Arabic is so similar. Are they from the same sarf? Yeah, so it says aslim, taslam, aslama yuslimu, Islam, from the bab if'al, and the other one he uses is salima yaslamu. So one's from the thulathi mazid, one's from the thulathi mujarrad. So aslama yuslimu means to submit, and the other one means to be safe. Yeah. And I've covered this in my sarf series. Is it wajib or fard for a woman to cover her face in salah? No, it's not. If she's praying in a place where there are ghair mahrams. So there's an ikhtilaf amongst the scholars about whether a woman needs to cover her face outside in public. So depending on that, whichever position she takes, that's what she follows. Can we name a child Mu'iz? Yeah, you can name a child Mu'iz. Yeah, because it's not considered to be a unique name to Allah. It's a name that Allah has, but like Allah has Kareem and like Allah has, Kabir, other words as well, you can have that. Sajid Khan, if someone makes intention he'll pay £50 for madrasas, but the fundraising is completed, can he keep the money for himself? Yes. Yeah, intention doesn't become binding. So if you make an intention for something, it doesn't become binding upon you to fulfill that. Let me just open this. Some air. Okay. What should doctors do when they are in a position to choose between patients' lives? Similar cases happen in a lot of hospitals at the time. Yeah. So see, doctors are only able to do things according to their capacity. So that's a very difficult kind of situation. I would say those kind of doctors need to speak to scholars and they look at the kind of rough kind of situations that they're going to face, and then the doctors will be able to give the ulama will be able to give them the right answers. But yeah, it is possible that doctors will have to make. I mean, it's happened in the past where there's people in a battlefield who have been like maimed, and the doctors are trying to tend to them, but they don't know which one to go to first, and they have to make a decision. And if they go to one, the other one's going to die. So yeah, that can happen. Mufti Saab, following on from Saria's question, recently in Pakistan there were a lot of controversy regarding domestic abuse bill, and there was a section of society opposing it because they said if Allah Ta'ala allows a husband to beat their wives lightly in case of nushuz, then government can't ban it. It would be un-Islamic. I found that very strange. Yeah, so that's where the government has been given the power to be able to put in certain conditions, restrictions. So, like for example, in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, he put certain restrictions on the recipients of zakat, and he said that the non-Muslims cannot receive zakat anymore. So these kind of rulings over time, this is something which the governments can do, but it doesn't mean forever it becomes banned. It can be uplifted in that country. So, like for example, slavery hasn't been banned by all Muslim countries. In some countries, it still happens. But it's just that many of them have signed the Geneva Convention Treaty. Alia, ahla wa sahla wa alaikum assalam. You mentioned last time sleeping in masjid. Can I know where this comes from? So yeah, so there's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari and other books where the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't allow for people to sleep, like he didn't allow for people to have doors access to the masjid, except for him and Ali radiallahu anhu. And there's also narrations, and this is mentioned by Imam Ibn Hajar and others as well, about the etiquettes of the masjid, and that people should not just sleep in the masjid for no reason, and only those people who had no other place to go. So like Ibn Umar, Ashab al-Sufa, and people like that. Otherwise, the masjid isn't a place for sleeping, because it's just gonna become a place where people are supposed to worship, and then you got people who are sleeping there, and then they might have nocturnal emissions, wet dreams, etc. Right, next. Zed Miller. It says a black stone is from heaven. Does it mean outer space? Yeah, we don't know. When it says that it's from heaven, we don't know what it means by heaven. It could have mean that's from out of earth. It could have mean that it's from something which is known as Jannah, as in like a heaven, not necessarily the heaven that Muslims are going to go to. So we don't really know the details of that. Ustad, have you tried Sunnah musk perfumes? I don't know which ones they are. If you have a picture of them, maybe. I don't think so. Are you talking about like real musk? I've tried real musk. Very expensive. But I don't know. Sunnah musk perfumes. Not sure about that. Next. Mu'eed. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Is fasting on the day of Arafah more rewardful than if someone was fasting in Ramadan? No. Because fasting in Ramadan is an obligation, and nothing can reach the level of obligation. Nothing can be more rewarding than an obligatory fast. Assalamu alaikum, ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. What does the seven heavens refer to? So in reality, we don't know what it means. Like from a scientific point of view, human observational point of view, we can't define it. So it's purely something which is something we just have to believe in. So we don't know exactly, is it referring to something outside of our galaxy? It seems as though it's a totally different realm that our sophisticated technology that we have will never ever be able to see it from this earth. So a lot of things that we're told about, like Jannah and Jahannam, it's basically things which fall under the realm of Iman bil Ghaib, believe in the unseen. Ahlan wa sahlan. So I thought that water permeable meant that water particles pass through the membrane, therefore. Yeah, so that's what I thought. So when I did tests on it, I actually found that it doesn't go through. Because I remember this was like many years ago, someone asked me, and the water wouldn't actually go through. So basically, from a scientific point of view, they kind of their definition of water permeable is different from what Muslims consider it to be when it comes to wudu. Does that make sense? So it's like something may be breathable, scientifically, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's something which qualifies for wudu itself. Yeah. So there's that issue, and this is like a big problematic issue sometimes when the fuqaha say, for example, when you're going to get this question answered, make sure you go to a Muslim physician or a Muslim scientist, because the Muslim scientist will actually understand the Islamic approach to it, whereas the non-Muslim, because I remember this when once someone said, they said basically on radio, they would ask a question about fasting, and a non-Muslim doctor quickly just said, no, Muslims shouldn't fast in 18 hours fasts. And a non-Muslim, there was a Muslim scholar sitting there, and he said, listen, he says, can you please do research on this. This is how we fast, and this is what we do. And so after a week, he came back on the radio show, and the non-Muslim doctor actually said, yeah, actually, you can fast if that's what you guys call fasting, and if that's how you experience it. There's nothing wrong with it. So sometimes what tends to happen is when we hear something from a non-Muslim scientific sort of, we tend to conflate that with what Muslims are saying. Brands offering permeable must have done tests to ensure. You'll be shocked. You will be surprised at how many people are just after money, and they would have just gone to like any person, any scholar, who's not might not even be known to people, and said, "Can you just verify this for us that this is permissible to do wudu with?" And this is why I would be very careful of. I would be very, very careful of these kind of products. So when you think that there's a big company, and there's Apple has spoken to Muslims about this, like who have they spoken to? Or Microsoft has spoken to Muslims about this. Who I know for myself that some companies, because I have people that came to me once and said to me that, is this halal? And when I researched it, I said, no, it's not. So I know what they'll do. They'll go to someone else, and they'll go to other people until they find their person they want to say it's halal, and they just get it signed by him. So you'll be quite shocked. It's sad. It's a sad world of commercializing Muslim goods, or goods for Muslims. But it's just a sad reality. So that's what I would say. If you have a company that says that they are water permeable and it's permissible for Muslims, ask them who's on the board of scholars, and check out if the board of scholars is considered to be legitimate. Contact them. Otherwise, I wouldn't trust them. Are the divorce rules for the same for couple who never had jima or khalwa sahiha, but they mostly married to know each other? So no. So then if they get divorced, then there's no iddad, no nothing. Yeah, it's just over. What's the correct balance between reason and revelation? As it seems that scholars differ in the issue, like some say the Hanafis and reason and qiyas too much. Yeah, so this is not an easy thing to kind of answer in this live stream, because lots of scholars have actually discussed this issue. But what I would say is a very good book on this by Imam Ghazali is called Qanun al-Ta'wil. Qanun al-Ta'wil. And he's gone through, he's listed all the different approaches in how Muslims of the past try to approach the understanding of Sharia. Some of them going too extreme in purely using their intellect, some of them going purely using just reports without using intellect, and some using both. And so it's the best way you can understand is how the Sahaba done it. So you have to basically study how the Sahaba understood the Deen, and then you can balance. You can try to interpolate, yeah, or try to deduce from that how they would balance aql and Deen as well, the two things. That's why we're traditionalists, because we stick to how the Sahaba and Tabi'in would do things. That's basically how we do all these kind of things. So it's all to do with the idea of interpretation. It's to do with the idea of utilizing the understanding of the Sahaba. That's what we want. And didn't Sayyidina Umar forbid Sahaba from marrying non-Muslim women because then yes, definitely. Wa alaikum assalam, Eshan, ahlan wa sahlan, welcome. What about Jamaat sleeping in masjid? They make their intention i'tikaf, I believe. Yeah, so Jamaats, because they've got nowhere else to go. Yeah, in those kind of situations for i'tikaf purposes, that's fine. But just sleeping there because it's just comfortable, that should be avoided. Yeah. Zed, ahlan wa sahlan. Is telling your close ones about bad experiences we have with another person considered backbiting? No, not necessarily. If it's a way of trying to ease the pain or it's trying to resolve the issue, then it's permissible. Yeah, but otherwise, for no reason, if it's just for no reason, then you shouldn't do that. Some imams in England make dua for England to win at the end of the Jummah khutbah, and it caused a lot of controversy. Some people said that's absolutely fine to do so because they're asking for something halal. Others disagreed and said it's disrespectful to sit on the minbar and make dua for. What are your thoughts? Um, I don't know. I haven't really thought about this. But generally, making dua, for example, a certain person wins football, isn't it? The problem that scholars would have with this is the status of football, as in what's the ruling of football, what's the ruling of watching football. Is it considered to be something which is encouraged in our society? So there's so many kind of questions that scholars would have. So you can imagine some scholars would be inclined towards not supporting it, and thus the making dua for it would be bad. And then you have others that might see this as being something which is like motivating for the society, maybe might be encouraging for the youth to become uh, more healthy and start exercising. And it's not something which is categorically against Islam, as in making dua for like one country to beat another country in war was permissible. Yeah, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when the Persians they beat the Rome, and then Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu put a bet and said that Rome's going to win. The Byzantines are going to win in a few years' time. So that was considered to be permissible. غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ, and I mentioned this when we did the surah of Surah Rum over there. But I think one thing we have to try and understand is we have to try and understand scholars where they're coming from. So when people think scholars have to agree on everything, the Deen is one, Allah is one, the Quran is one, the Prophet ﷺ is one, but then Sahaba are many, obviously. And then they say things like, but shouldn't the ulama all be the same? Shouldn't they have the same answer? And I've got this so many times on social media. I've said something and someone says, but Maulana so-and-so says this, right? And this is because they can't understand how academia works. They can't understand how difference of opinion works. Okay. Okay, next one. This is FIFA. I've always wondered, though, that if a person worships Allah all his life and never sinned, then wouldn't it just be unjust for Allah to send them to hell? And the Quran says, indeed. So this is what the Mu'tazila are arguing. However, because there are other narrations where the Prophet ﷺ has said that a person may live their entire life doing good deeds and in the last moments of their life slip up, and because of that they end up in hell. And a person might be doing bad all their life and the last moments of their life they've done good and Allah takes them Jannah. Again, this all boils down to the issue of are we allowed to bind Allah Ta'ala to our own understanding of justice? Yeah, so this is where the issue lies. Like I said, this is what you're saying is basically what the Mu'tazila are saying. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah don't say that. Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah's argument is that we have to, yes, Allah has promised in the Quran that whoever does good will enter, but we can't say that person. Like we can't put our finger and say this guy Khalid. Let's say Khalid all his life has been doing good, and so he has to be put into Jannah. No, we just stick to what the Quran says. So the Quran says whoever does good, yeah, and such and such and such, and we say okay, we can say that. MU, ahlan wa sahlan. So I hope you're well, Ustad. If the Imam does salam in Fard namaz and I have not finished my tashahud, do I complete my tashahud before giving salam or do salam with the Imam? You can do both. Ideally, finish your tashahud off, then give salam. But if you were to give salam, your salat will be done. Abu Shu'aib, are all the stories of the Quran literal? For example, the 3 prophets sent down. This is what we believe. Majority of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we believe this. So Mu'tazila, again, they have some issues with some of the stories in the Quran, and they say some of them were not real, some of them were like examples. They were just simply examples. They never happened. But Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah say that we can't do that unless there is a categorical like piece of evidence to show that we're not intending the real meaning. Otherwise, what's going to happen is anyone can just start saying, well, I believe that this thing in the Quran is just metaphorical, and I believe this is metaphorical, and people will just eventually interpret the Quran as being fully under their own under their own sort of like interpretation. Full interpretation they can do. So they can interpret something as being physical, literal, non-physical, something which is metaphorical, and anything like that. So this is why we have to be very careful. And that's why we stick to Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Sahaba and the Tabi'in, their methodology, their interpretation. We stick to that as much as possible. So that answers your question. We stick to how the Sahaba and Tabi'in interpreted, and we try to stay as close as possible to that approach. Are the dead aware? So some narrations indicate that the dead do become aware when the people go to visit them in the grave, but they can't tell exactly. Like they can't have a communication with them or anything like that. It's just that they sense it. Mo Rafiq, yes, man. When the students getting their results back? Within 3 weeks, inshallah. Within 3 weeks. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hassan, ahla wa sahlan, ahla wa sahlan. Alhamdulillah, very good. Thank you very much. Saria, Jazakallah khair. If one was to pray with permeable nail polish thinking it's permeable, would they have to do qada those prayers? I would say if they prayed it in the past, then they don't have to repeat it. But if they know now, then they'd have to repeat it. So if they know now, from now on, they shouldn't do it. It's sad really, because I've seen it firsthand how Muslim companies, just to get their thing sold, they'll go to like a big scholar. They'll try to get the biggest scholar they can to endorse that thing, and then they know that if I've got this big scholar's name on here, lots of people are going to buy it off me, and I don't really care if it's halal or not. I don't really care technicalities behind it. I just want to make money from it. And I've seen people, unfortunately, like do that, and people have come to me and I've refused to do these kind of things for them, and then they've kind of become upset at me because they're going to be losing out on a lot. Boxing, MMA. Are there 3 types of dreams? What are they? MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair, Tanveer, Ahla wa sahlan, MashaAllah for your kind donation. May Allah bless you. Are there 3 types of dreams? What are they? So yes. So basically dreams in your mind, some of them are based upon our own personal sort of thoughts and emotions that we're going through. So let's say in the day you're going through lots of hunger emotions related to hunger or thirst. You're going to see the effect of that in your dream, meaning it's going to have no real meaning in the real world. It's simply just a reflection of what you're feeling. You're going through depression, you're going through sadness, you're going through a breakup, you're going through love, you're going through this. You're going to see that in your dream. That's one type. That's the main type everyone sees. And then you have on the side, you have those dreams that are affected by demonic thoughts. The demonic thoughts ones have no meaning. We should ignore them. And then you have those ones that are true dreams. Those are very rare to get, which is like a dream that you see very, very categorical. It has nothing to do with your emotions. And these are the dreams that you try to get interpreted. The Christian, Jewish have their own different belief in God, so they are non-believers, or Ahl Kitab are the animals they slaughter halal. So Ahl Kitab, the Quran says, anyone who is Ahl Kitab, anyone who is Jew and Christian, as long as they slaughter the animal, we can eat that meat. Even though the Quran still says that they are disbelievers. So the Quran categorically calls the Christians in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ, that Allah is the Messiah. كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ, that Allah is a third of 3, Trinity. So anyone who says that is a kafir. But because they call themselves monotheists, the Quran allows us to be able to marry with them and also eat their slaughtered meat. Tasneem, ahla wa sahlan, welcome, alaikum assalam. If someone was pregnant and they found out that their child will have severe special needs, can they abort the child believing that it will cause them to get depressed if they possibly, yeah. What I would do is, if someone is going through that, tell them to contact a scholar, speak to a scholar about the situation. And I personally would see that in that kind of situation, there is scope for it. I wouldn't say yes, because there might be other things going on. And I've had people in the past that have contacted me, and I've did further investigation, and I found out that in reality there was no issue. There was a risk of the child, having special needs, but it wasn't that strong. And eventually, the child was born totally fine, healthy, alhamdulillah. So, and sometimes you've seen situations where I've said to people that in your situation, it's a very bad sort of like hereditary, issue that the child will suffer, and the child is not going to have a normal quality of life. In that situation, it was permissible for them to abort. Yeah, so those are kind of like situations. So I would say in these kind of situations, contact a scholar, speak to the scholar about the person's situation. I'm sorry if this is white t-shirt should be made haram upon you in these videos. Yeah, I know. You know what? It's just too hot, man. Yeah, so I had to wear something that was feeling cool. I was gonna wear something else, but it's very, very like hot outside, and my body experienced a lot of heat. Yeah, I'm Patan, so I get very hot-headed. So yeah, I had to try to find something cool to wear. Okay, next. Ustad, if I pray Maghrib on 20th of July in the UK and fly abroad due to time zone, Asr of 20th of July starts in the country, do I have to repeat my Asr? So according to Hanafis, no, you don't have to. Yeah, you wouldn't have to repeat the Salat again. Any courses you can recommend to learn Fusha Arabic? Yeah, do my Quranic Arabic 17 lessons, which you can get if you go to the website uruk.com, or if you send an email. Yeah. So that is, I think I've designed that specially for people who haven't studied Arabic before, to get them kind of into it. Right, next. Wa alaikum assalam, SM, ahlan wa sahlan. Arnaut, should the couple who married mostly to know each other have to do another nikah when they decide to carry on? Well, if they're married with two witnesses and the woman's family have given permission, it's a totally valid nikah. Yeah, nikah is totally valid. So no need to repeat it. Is it completely fine to cut hair and nails before Qurbani for non-Hajis? Yes, totally fine. Does that include threading or waxing? Yes. So I've made a video on this. If you check my YouTube channel, I made a video on Qurbani, and I've talked about the ikhtilaf, difference of opinion about cutting of the hair. Hanafis say that it's considered recommended to not cut your hair, but it's not sinful at all. Are women allowed to visit graveyards? So there's two opinions about this. I would say that the opinion, which is the stronger opinion, is the permissibility of them going there. Are the dead know when we make dua for them? I don't know. Allah knows best. No idea. If a couple did khalwa sahiha but not jima, if they do talaq, does the wife have to wait iddah? Yes. According to Hanafis, she will have to wait the iddah. متى سيظهر أخي مطيع الرحمن على هذه القناة؟ إن شاء الله في المستقبل إن شاء الله. Oh yeah, curious cat questions, totally forgot. I'm so busy answering your questions here. Totally skipped my mind. Okay, so there's only one question here anyway. So alhamdulillah. It's okay. It's okay, everyone chill out, guys. Only one curious cat question, yeah. Assalamu alaikum. I have an RE book from secondary school, and in this book there is writing in pen and at times maybe pencil. I have been going through some of the books and have cut out the words say God, by Muhammad, Jesus, and more words. I also have a book from sociology in sixth form where one of the modules was on religion. Is it my duty to go through? No, you don't have to do any of that. Yeah, you don't have to do any of that. So these kind of things, again, these are beyond people's capacity. This is haraj, this is. So it would be too difficult for people to have to do this, the all newspaper cuttings and everything. Akhi, I am waiting for Mutir Rahman. Inshallah, my brother, Akhi Mutir Rahman's podcast, inshallah, he will join, inshallah, maybe in 2 weeks' time. Friday, 10:30 p.m. in UK time. Okay, so have you read the book on Contagion, written by late Mufti Taha Karam? I believe advised cautious approach and articulated a case of. No, I haven't read it. Can women pray outdoors? Yes. Hiji Park, yes, they can. They're allowed to. So, I mean, it's not haram for a man to see a woman praying. Yeah, they can. Tanya wa alaikum salam. What happens to the ruh, to a deceased person, when they are in hospital for a couple of days before the janaza? We don't exactly know what happens. I mean, their soul is taken away, but we don't exactly know where it's actually taken, how it's dealt with. But the idea of, putting the person in the grave should be done as quick as possible. And if they're left outside, it doesn't mean that they're feeling torment, they're not being tormented. No, it doesn't mean that. If there's a valid reason for that, then it's fine. But otherwise, it should be buried as quick as possible. But there's no sort of like categorical narration or any verse of the Quran that says exactly what's happened to the soul whilst they're in waiting period. I have an important question about balagha and grammar in Arabic. Yes, tafaddal. The reason is because the only thing that I think would go with this lungi, actually, you know what? That reminds me, I was actually wearing shorts all day. But it reminds me of my lungi. Yeah, my lungi is in the cupboard. It's actually a good idea, that is. I might actually put that on. So it's nice weather for that. Lungi, air conditioning. I remember once I had one lungi, so I was telling people about that I wear lungi, and some of my students bought me like lungis, some nice Bangladeshi lungis, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan tayyib. Can you give qurbani on behalf of a parent that has passed away? Yes, you can. Yeah, you can give sadaqah jariyah, give it on their behalf, inshallah. If you have zaida in grammar, does it make it zaida in balagha? Not necessarily, no. It all depends. So, in other words, grammar looks at the whole construct of the sentence, as in grammatical construct of the status of each word in a sentence. So this is why the concept of zaida in grammar is basically due to it not having a position when it comes to affecting vowels. But in balagha has got nothing to do with vowels. So balagha has got to do with other reasons. So some things which are zaida in nahu may be zaida in balagha, but some things are not. Yeah. So for example, like let's say, for example, we take ma. So ma comes for ta'keed. So in balagha, ma, sometimes ma will come for ta'keed, emphasis, and then that ma will have an effect. But in grammar, we're going to say that ma is zaida. Yeah, ma zaida. Yeah, so that's the khulasa. Okay. SM, Allah has cursed women who frequent graves. Allah has cursed women who visit graves and those who build mosques and places. This is what I came across. Yeah, so, and there's also, see, the thing is, what is the word that's used in this hadith is zawarat al-qubur, not zairat al-qubur. Zawarat actually is a mubalagha, which means the ones in the Jahiliyyah who used to frequent the graves a lot, and they would like wail a lot. They would scream and wail. So this is why, like, I'm not coming out with this from myself. This is like Sheikh Ashraf, Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmiri, Sheikh Ahmed Khalil Ahmed Saranpuri. This is in the commentaries. Ma'arif al-Sunan mentions this. Badr al-Majhud in the commentary, Abu Dawood mentions this. Even in the books of the Hanafis is mentioned as well. That this is something which is to do with like certain types of women who would cause a lot of problem, by wailing, going to the graveyards and wailing. This was the prohibition was on them. But then the prohibition was uplifted. The Prophet ﷺ, this is also in Sahih Muslim as well. The Prophet said, I prohibit you from going to the graves, now visit them because they remind of the hereafter. And Aisha radiallahu anha used to go to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, and her own father's grave, she would go there. And this was after his demise. So clearly, if Aisha radiallahu anha is going to the grave, that shows the permissibility of it. Wa alaykum assalam, Sufyan. Ahla wa sahlan. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Darby. That's the way, man. Turkish tea today, bro. Got some Turkish tea. Oh, proper. Nice. Gives you a nice kick. Ginger kick. Hit the like button, guys. Yes, listen to Sufyan. What is the reason for Hanafis allowing nikah without wali? So the reason being is because Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he says that the concept of a human being able to make their own decisions, adults being able to make their own decisions, is equal between a male and a female. So therefore, just like a man should be able to marry whoever he wants without anyone's permission, a woman should have the same, should have equal say in that as well. As for the issue of the wali would only make a difference if the woman gets married to someone who will not be a suitor for him. Yeah, that's where the wali comes in play. Is having a dogs in the home permissible? According to Malikis. Yeah, according to Malikis, permissible. Is it jais for someone to marry a trans woman? It wouldn't be a marriage. Yeah, it wouldn't be a marriage. So marriage can only occur between a biological male and biological female. If your son is gay, do you have to disown them? No, of course not. If your son drinks alcohol, you don't have to disown them. If your son gambles, you don't have to disown him. No. You don't have to. A sin is a sin. You recognize the sin. You tell them that you believe what they're doing is wrong and they should stop doing it. But you don't have to disown them. Yes, if they're having a big impact on your family, then you can discommunicate them. But you don't disown them. Is it permissible to buy a house and mortgage in the US? If there is no other way for you to be able to make the money, to be able to get yourself a property, or long-term rent is not possible, then possibly. What I would suggest is speak to a scholar about your financial situation, and he can give you an answer. Are we able to give salam to the family deceased at the graveyard like we give salam at the Prophet? Yeah, you can give salam, and that's what we do. The dua for visiting the graves, the Prophet said, when you go to visit the graves, you say, Assalamu alaikum ya ahl al-qubur min al-muslimin. Assalamu alaikum to all the Muslims in the graves. That's what we do. Assalamu alaikum. Could you please again the names of the books you use for your word in-depth series? Much appreciated. Yeah, so I used several books. The main book that I benefited a lot from was Mu'jam al-Ishtiqaq. Yeah, it's called Mu'jam. It's called Mu'jam al-Ishtiqaq. Mu'jam. It's in the links. If you watch, go in the series. Yeah, it's in the links. Mu'jam al-Ishtiqaqi al-Mu'assal al-Alfaz al-Quran. Hassan Jabal. Yeah. Boxing, MMA, ahlan wa sahlan. Is it okay to get your breasts enlarged for your husband? Possibly, if it does not physically harm you, if there's not sort of like any sort of like medical issues complications that will occur, then yes. Yeah, if the risks are bad though, then you shouldn't take, because there's a lot of people who have had bad sort of like complications take place. So I would say speak to the doctor. Otherwise, yeah, if it's something the husband wishes, then it's fine. So boxing, MMA. Can women pray in the car if there is nowhere else to pray, or must they pray standing? Yes, women. If there is no way to pray, women can pray in the car. Yeah. So if there's like, for example, like on the motorway, it's too dark, they're too scared to get out of the car, or the ground is too wet, then they can pray sitting in the car. MU, can I use a credit card to develop my credit history? If I pay the credit in full, at each end of each month so I don't get interest? Yes, I would say yes. That's something which I do as well. Yeah, so I do that. So it builds up your credit score. So then it makes it easier later on for you to be able to make purchases, or even, if you need for some, I don't know, business or something. Do the dead in the graves know we are making dua for them? I don't know. Wallahu alam. Some narrations indicate that they are informed. Some narrations say that they don't know. Can a woman do a full wax in a salon? She's not allowed to show between her navel, her belly button, to her knees to anyone besides her husband. So if that requires her showing that part to another woman, they're not allowed. But if the woman who's doing the waxing can put her hands under and not look at that area, then there'd be scope for that. I asked because they have a show aura. Can this be justified? No, it's not darura. Yeah, no, it's not darura. Zaima wa alaikum assalam. Ahla wa sahlan. Ahla wa sahlan. MashaAllah. Welcome. Ahla wa sahlan. I'm sorry to hear about what's happening in South Africa. I hope where you are, things are safe and your family's okay. May Allah make it easy. Mullah isn't there here today, and Abdul Majid Bhai is not here yet. Do you do your Qurbani over here? No, I don't. This year I'm doing my Qurbani in Yemen, alhamdulillah. Usually I just do abroad or somewhere. It's easier for me. In this country, it's very difficult to be able to do Qurbani and then get the meat and all that. So it's quite difficult. I wanted actually to do it with Hill Farm Finest, but unfortunately their bookings had already been used up, finished 3 or 4 weeks before. Ahlan wa sahlan, Ahmad. Is offending a Sayyid a grave sin, offending an ordinary Muslim? No, not necessarily. But if you disrespect him because of his lineage, then that's obviously possibly a sin. When Allah says He is closer to us than a jugular vein, do we not understand this metaphorically and therefore with... Yeah, so see, any sort of verse in the Quran which cannot physically mean something which cannot literally mean something that will fit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to interpret it. So for example, when Allah says He's everywhere, yeah, He's with you everywhere, He can't be everywhere, because that goes against the concept of Allah being free of time and space. So therefore we interpret this as His knowledge and His power is everywhere. So when these kind of verses, this is why we interpret. Yeah, so this is why when we say Allah is everywhere, meaning Allah is everywhere with His knowledge and with His power. Okay, wouldn't breast enlargement class as plastic surgery? Yes. Yeah, so these kind of, I mean, if there, for example, like if there's a woman who has small breasts, and let's say, for example, like this is something that's having a big effect on her marriage. Yeah, maybe the husband is losing interest in her and he's asked her to have this. This is possible, something that they can do. So just like, for example, if a woman has teeth that are not straight and a husband asks her to have her teeth straightened, these kind of things would be permissible. That's why I said in these kind of situations, they should speak to like someone about this and see the kind of situation. But normally there is a kind of scope for these kind of matters, I would say. Assalamu alaikum. Are lash lifts haram? I don't know, what is that? What's a lash lift? Never heard of that before. A question. If you're reading a translation of the Quran, do you need wudu? Some of the scholars say yes, some say no. I would say that if it's very difficult for you to do wudu, then you don't have to, right? Especially if there's no Arabic text with it, then you don't have to do wudu. Just touch it. But Mufti Saab, if seeing aura isn't allowed, how could touching it? So basically the Hanafis mentioned this. They say the issue with regards to the prohibition of looking is that, you're not... the issue with regards to touching is that the hand is not necessarily touching the skin itself. So Like, for example, if the waxing or whatever can be done without touching the skin, like maybe there is some sort of cloth they put or something like of that sort, then that would be permissible. Alaikum assalam. Where did you learn deen? I learned it in Karachi, Pakistan. Okay, all questions are finished now, alhamdulillah. MashaAllah, all your questions are finished. Ya Allah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, Arnawad, according to the Hanafis, is Qurbani wajib for some who possess the nisab? Yes, it's wajib. So you watch my video on Qurbani. Let me just find the video for you. I explained all these things in there. Okay, where is it? Okay, here it is. Here is the Qurbani video. Any tips for part-time students? Just work hard. Yeah, listen to what your teachers say. Work hard. Dedicate yourself. I would say speak to other students who have done the course as well, to kind of trying to get tips from that course. Looters were extremely harmful during the protest. Now they are hungry again. Is it our job as Muslims to feed them? They burned down a mosque and made food for the underprivileged as well. Yeah, so it's difficult to say, these kind of. I don't know the situation how bad it is over there, but generally, if there is someone who is starving and hungry, supporting them, helping them out, obviously is a good thing to do. But I don't know exactly and how that's going to result later on. Is it going to have an impact, an adverse effect on your society? Yeah, Allah make it easy for you guys. So I'm not too sure about. Maybe scholars over there would know the situation better. Thank you very much, Barakallahu Feek. Another question: what do you think of the division between Sufis and Salafis? Allah knows best. Maybe ask the Sufis and ask the Salafis. Allah knows best. Ustaz, we're meant to cover our satar, but when we're playing football, I have to wear shorts. You should wear those kind of skin tight leggings that go below your knees, under them. Yeah, so you can wear shorts, but wear those underneath. All right, guys, all questions are finished. I think I'm going to finish it there as well. We have a hot day today. Yeah, and as Khan saying, you need to get out the lungi, wear the lungi. So I think I'm going to go look for the lungi, wear the lungi. Ya Allah. Is it permissible to watch MMA? I would say no, it should be avoided. Although I know some people will allow it. Is it mandatory or recommended to follow a madhab? Yeah, so I've explained this in my video on madhabs, history of madhabs. Madhab. Yeah, so watch that, and in there, inshallah, you will find answers you're looking for. Are breast reduction also permissible due to back pain? Yeah. So if it's a genuine medical issue, doctors have said, for example, like the size of the woman's breast is causing her to have some sort of another illness or a pain in her body, or any sort of having harmful effects, then yeah, these kind of things would be permissible. Again, these kind of things should be discussed with a good Muslim scholar, or maybe even speak to a Muslim doctor about this. I mean, no problem. I don't know what you can ask. This is what this day is for, to ask questions, inshallah. If I know the answer, I'll answer. If I don't know the answer, then I'm just going to say I don't know the answer. Sounds good, Weza. But Ustad, Muslims performing MMA like Khabib and Islam. The thing is, look, it doesn't matter if a Muslim participates in something which is wrong. It doesn't it doesn't legitimize it. That's what we have to understand. So if a Muslim is involved in, let's say, a casino business or something like that, and he does a lot of charity work, it doesn't mean that now we're going to start saying working for a casino or running casino is allowed. So I mean, I know some people argue with regards to MMA. The main thing with MMA is that it is a violent sport. It is deadly, right? It actually, the risk of harming someone is very high. So I would say at a professional level, this is not allowed. Yeah, and the reason why watching it would be problematic is because exposure of the aura, exposure of these kind of parts of the body. That would be. I wouldn't say that. I know there's scholars who allow this because there's difference of opinion of certain parts of the body that can be exposed. But personally, I would say it's not something which Muslims should try to watch too much of. Yeah, they should try to avoid it. And I know, I think, I don't know, Habib, I think he wears like a bit long shorts as well. Tries to cover as much as he can. So these are the kind of things. I personally think that what we don't want Muslims to go fall into the rabbit hole. Yeah, once they fall into a rabbit hole, then what they're going to do is they're going to twist all of their religion around everything that is immoral in our society. Yeah, and then you don't want to have like Muslims eventually ending up doing what they've been prohibited from, just because there's a Muslim celebrity who supports it. Yeah, so we've got to be very careful of that. And Habib has given up. I mean, why has he given up for? That's the question. He knew it was wrong. It's not a good thing to do. He's given up, and that should also be something for us to think about as well. Anyway, guys, I'm going to finish it there. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much. And I will see you guys next time, inshallah. I'll see you guys next week. Rami du'as, inshallah, in the fasting of Arafat on Monday, inshallah. I'm going to be trying to doing it as well. You guys start doing it as well, inshallah. It's a very noble fast. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Eid. Enjoy the celebrations. It's going to be a hot day in the UK, so all you UK guys enjoy. And likewise, next week, inshallah, is 3 days of Eid, isn't it? Yeah, so enjoy the 3 days of Eid as well. Yeah, have a wonderful time, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Okay, what prevents people from other sorts of bad? What if MMA prevents? I mean, that's hard to say that it prevents them from other sorts of bad entertainment. I mean, that's like saying, well, maybe a little bit of alcohol stops them from a lot of alcohol, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't agree with that logic. Yeah, that people say this stops me from that. I mean, how is it that this? I mean, shouldn't you stop it altogether? Yeah, that's why I think people should be encouraged to stop it altogether. People should be told this is wrong, and it's up to you. You want to watch it or not, it's up to you. But you need to be told, right, this is wrong, right? There's no real legitimate reason for you to be able to watch this. Did you see Ishaq Muhammad comment style following you on his Instagram? The work he's doing is phenomenal, mashallah. You would certainly reap some benefit. Okay. I will try to have a look, inshallah. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Khabib gave it up because his father passed away and his mum wouldn't allow him. Yeah, well, that means still shows you that he's giving it up. Yeah, it still shows you that he's giving it up. And early Eid Mubarak to all of you guys, inshallah. Take care, inshallah. And special du'as, remember. Fasting on the Monday is going to be very, very rewarding, inshallah. And make dua for the Hajis as well, that Allah accepts their Hajj and gives us the tawfiq to go for Hajj as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.